Don't take shortcuts with your basketball gear. I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
No one can guard me. Running through the post, sweating till I reach the goal. So point them out, who I what, line them up, shut them out, point them out, who I what, size them up, shut them down.
Today's video is a cautionary tale of an old man's mistakes. So I needed a new pair of basketball shoes. And before I get into the story, let me make a couple things clear just to start out with. Okay, first of all, I don't know anything about basketball shoes. I'm not a basketball shoe guy. I'm not a sneakerhead. I don't know anything about basketball shoe culture. I'm not a basketball shoe reviewer. If you want my opinion on shoes, if you want me to review some shoes, send them to me and I'll do the best I can. But of course you're not gonna do that, so of course I am not going to review basketball shoes. Number two, I'm cheap. And it's not really that I'm cheap, it's just that I hate waste of all forms. And part of that means like I don't want to spend more money than I feel is necessary for a given item. And number three, I'm old. So for those of you who don't understand, who don't know, who are new to the channel, I am not currently an active player. I retired from active competition 10 plus years ago because I stupidly ran my body into the ground. But I still have basketball running through my veins and it's in my blood, so I wanted to start this channel. Been having this channel going on for a few years now, and part of my goal is to help you guys not make the mistakes that I did so you can be better players than I was. And you'll understand all of those 3 points as we get into this story. So I needed a new pair of basketball shoes. For those of you who've seen previous videos on this channel, you've seen me wear these old pair of Reeboks. Now, I don't know the name of them. I don't know if I ever knew the name of them, because again, I'm not a sneaker guy. And these shoes are about 15 years old. Like I said, I've been retired for about 10 plus years. So I start researching basketball shoes. And something that I'm not ignorant about basketball shoes is that they are expensive. They've always been expensive. For the premium, most well-known brands of shoes, they're way expensive. Also, another problem for me with today's basketball shoes is most of them just look ugly to me. And by ugly, I mean, when I look at them, I don't see my personality in them. I don't see my game in them. I don't see them on my feet and them reflecting the kind of personality and game I bring to the court. If I don't see that in a pair of shoes, I don't want them on my feet, I'm not going to buy them. And then I came across the Steph Curry 8s. This was a couple years ago. I saw the Steph Curry 8s and I was like, I'm not super crazy about the way they look, but it was the technology that went into them that grabbed my attention. So some time goes by as I'm pondering this decision, and then the Steph Curry 9s come out, and they are even more visually appealing to me, and they have the same, if not improved, technology in them. As far as I understand, it's like they have the foam sole and then the upper is just all one piece, so it makes it really light. And I love the idea of that, so I start doing research and realize that the Steph Curry shoes are based on one of Under Armour's running shoes called the Flow shoes that use the same exact form, the foam sole with the one piece upper as their running shoe. That's how they came up with the Steph Curry shoe. The Curry shoe is like the basketball version of that Flow running shoe. When it comes to basketball, because I'm not an active competitor anymore, I'm only out here 3 to 4 times a week, 7 months out of the year when the weather's good enough for me to be out here. But when it comes to cardio, I do cardio about 300 days out of the year. So in all reality, I have much more of an application and use for cardio running shoes than I do for basketball shoes. And that is where the mistake comes into play, friends, because that's where I tried to take the shortcut. The Steph Curry shoes are $160. That's definitely more than I'd like to pay. I understand that's a standard price for basketball shoes nowadays, and that's what it takes to buy that quality of basketball shoes. That's the amount of money it takes. I get that. It's more than I want to pay though still, right? But the Velocity running shoes by Under Armour, are $140. So they're only $20 cheaper, and they're coming out with like new editions of them over these months that I'm thinking about making this decision. So I was thinking, what if I get the running shoes and use them for both running and basketball, because I could use new running shoes as well. But yet and still, for $140, that's more than I want to pay. So then one day I see the Under Armour Velocity Flow SE running shoes on sale for under $100. It's the first time I've ever seen them drop that low in price. So I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do now? How can I pass up this deal for these running shoes, especially if I can use them both for running and for basketball? How can I pass up a deal like that for those quality of shoes? So I did it. I pulled the trigger, and I pulled the trigger hard, and we got these. These are the Under Armour Velocity Flow Standard Edition running shoes. And again, I'm not a shoe guy, I don't know anything about shoes. I haven't bought running shoes in 5-8 years or so. And in terms of running shoes, these are amazing shoes. You barely feel them on your feet, and honestly, when you run, especially when you accelerate, it almost feels like you're cheating. Like you should not be able to accelerate as fast as you can in these shoes. For running, these shoes are amazing. But of course, for basketball, they are not. And I should have known that. I knew I was taking a chance when I ordered the shoes, but I figured if it worked out, then I would have been making a great decision. But of course, I should have known better that running shoes, especially these caliber quality of running shoes, are only meant for running. But like I said, I'm old and I'm cheap. So one of the reasons I had the idea to try to combine together basketball and running into one shoe and take that shortcut, save the money, is because I grew up playing in the 90s. In the 90s, we didn't have the kind of technology that we have today where we can make precise shoes for precise activities. Back in the 90s, you could buy cross trainers. You could even buy running shoes that obviously are specifically meant for running, but they would work at least okay for other sports, including basketball. One of the guys I grew up playing with, one of the most talented basketball players, one of the most dominating basketball players I've ever played with out at my local park, he would wear running shoes, cross trainers. He wore shoes that looked like they were meant for like hiking, and he would dominate everybody in those shoes in the 90s. So it's seared into my brain that, okay, well, other shoes that are meant for other activities can be used for basketball as well. But obviously, nowadays, these quality of shoes, that's not the case anymore. Now, you probably know better than I do because you're younger than I do, and you grew up in this culture, in this generation where basketball shoes are so good now, so specifically engineered for basketball, that you can't just buy any old pair of shoes and just use them for basketball and expect them to perform the way you want them to perform out here at the court. I knew I was taking a chance. I took it. It didn't pan out the way I wanted it to, but at least I have a good pair of running shoes now, way better pair than I had prior, which were a pair of like 2013 like Nike Shocks. What I learned from making this mistake was that I say on this channel repeatedly that one of the great things about basketball is that you don't need a lot of equipment to play basketball. You really only have two tools when it comes to playing basketball, and that is the shoes you wear and the ball you use. Those are your only real major two basketball tools. And so when it comes to choosing those tools, you should choose them wisely. Don't try to take the same kind of shortcut that I did. Like for instance, if you're choosing a basketball and you want a outdoor basketball, that's what it's going to be dedicated for, well then you're probably going to want to look at rubber dominated basketballs, meaning they're mainly made out of rubber. If you're looking for an indoor basketball, well then you should be looking towards leather bound basketballs that are made mostly, if not completely, out of leather. Now that's my opinion, but I think it makes sense, right? I'm not saying that you can't use or you shouldn't use some kind of composite basketball. They're a great composite basketball. All I'm saying is that those composite balls are like the in-between balls that like, they're okay for indoors and they're okay for outdoors, but if you want a ball that's great for indoors, use leather. If you want a ball that's great for outdoors exclusively, use rubber. In that situation, a composite ball is kind of the shortcut where it performs mediocrely both indoor and outdoor, but if you want supreme performance outdoor for rubber, indoor get leather. Same thing with basketball shoes, right? So if you want running shoes, get running shoes. If you want basketball shoes, get basketball shoes. Don't make the mistake that I did and try to cheap out, take the shortcut, and go, I'll just use, you know, one pair of shoes for everything when that's not what they're meant for. That's my bad. I know y'all probably gonna kill me in the comments. Gotta keep it real with y'all. But the problem still remains that I need new basketball shoes. So that's where but the problem remains that I still need basketball shoes. But the problem remains that I still need new basketball shoes. That's where these come into play. These are the peak Lou Williams Streetball Masters basketball shoes. I found these shoes on Amazon. They were priced for about $70. I got them for about $53-ish. I know I said I'm not a basketball shoe reviewer, but I will do a review, a novice, naive, you know, review of these shoes in a future video, so keep an eye out for that video. But at least these shoes are actual basketball shoes. They were made to play basketball in, and that's the way they feel. So at least I now have a pair of basketball shoes that are functional for basketball, and I've learned my lesson that trying to take that shortcut, trying to be clever and outthink the game, the sport, that's a rookie mistake that I should not have made, and at least I get to share it with you guys. And I'm sure that most of you are too intelligent to make that kind of a foolish mistake like that, but there are some of us who have whatever circumstances that we have that lead to making these kinds of mistakes. So I hope that for those few of you who are foolish enough like me to make that kind of mistake, I hope that I can head you off at the pass and stop you from doing that before you're foolishly fooling yourself to being clever like that to make that kind of a mistake. That's why you should not take shortcuts when selecting your basketball gear. Again, like I said, you only really have two tools in your basketball toolkit, and that is the ball and your shoes. You should be selective about how you choose those tools. And that doesn't mean you have to get the brand name gear stuff. You don't have to get the premium expensive stuff. Like I said, those Lou Williams shoes are only $60, $70. They don't have to be the most expensive, impressive gear, but they just need to do what you need them to do, right? Whatever you require of a ball or a shoe, pay the money to get that out of that product. For instance, this NBA Spalding street ball that I bought a couple years ago, it sold for $20. I got it with a coupon that was like more than like $15. It was more like $15 for this basketball. Not expensive, not impressive, but it works for me exactly the way I want. I love this basketball. I encourage you to have the same attitude when it comes to buying your basketball shoes. Don't just buy the expensive ones because they have an NBA player's name attached to them, or because they have the latest and greatest technology. Especially if you're a beginner, you should start with beginner basketball tools. If you're a beginner player, don't start out with the high-tech expensive stuff. Start low with the beginner stuff and work your way up. You will regret it if you don't do that, if you're going to be in this game for a long decades and decades period of time. If you really want to be about this life, start from the bottom, work your way up. There is a process, there is a hierarchy, you should adhere to it. So that's my mistake. thank you guys for watching. Go ahead and criticize me down in the comments all you want. That's fine. Just leave a comment, and if you enjoyed this video, if you think it's gonna help you to make better basketball gear buying decisions, then please subscribe to the channel. This is obviously a weird, obscure basketball channel. It's not like any other channel on YouTube. I don't do drills or workouts, none of that. I'm not trying to mold you into any kind of other, NBA modular basketball player. I'm trying for you to be the best basketball player that you can be, being who you are and playing your game. This is a basketball advice channel, not a workout or drill channel. And so for those of you who have subscribed, for those of you who keep coming back, for those of you who are new, understand that because this channel is so small, so obscure, and I understand that when you guys subscribe, I genuinely appreciate it. As always, like, comment, hit that notification bell so you're notified of whenever any of my videos go live. And until then, I'll see you guys next week.
It's fourth quarter, score tied up. My whole squad with me is fired up. The other team lacking, they tired, bruh. I'm trying to make sure they jaw wide, bruh. Don't need Red Bull, I got anger issues. Anger issues. I bet you I can knock him out in no time. Bobby Boucher with a clothesline. I'm not a shooter, bruh. All I do is rap. But if I knock you out your frame, you gon' think you got clapped. That's a fact.